Well, a whole lot of winning for the Trump administration, and the winning doesn't end with RFK Jr. Here we go. In just 2 weeks in office, President Trump racking up win after win. First, Colombia reversed course on taking back illegal immigrants. We all watched that play out on X. And the president sent his own plane this time. Then Venezuela, they got in line, agreeing to return American hostages and welcome deportation flights, too. Isn't that interesting? Didn't end there. Panama folded after Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited the country. Now Panama's pledging to end a key canal deal with China and work closely with the U.S. This after a little bit of resistance. And then yesterday, we got a 1-2 punch. First, it was Mexico, then it was Canada, both caving after Trump threatened a trade war. Mexico sending 10,000 troops to the southern border, Canada appointing a fentanyl czar and launching a $1.3 billion border plan. How about that for the art of the deal? And now we're waiting to see Trump's next move with China. But Emily, this did not come without resistance from the left. Let's start with Chuck Schumer. He had some interesting props. Let's roll it.
A lot of people at the Super Bowl have beer and guac. All of it comes from much of it comes from Mexico, and the prices of these things are likely to go up. These tariffs are so bad that experts have said that they could go up and cost a family as much as $1,200 a year.
Looks like we still got beer and guac, Emily.
Look, when I saw that charade, it just reiterated to me that the entrenched incumbents there represent not 1 ounce of who I am, at least as an American. And it is so tragic to me to see Schumer up there standing with avocados and Corona Light and failing to see the forest for the trees. The 100,000 Americans that have died via fentanyl poisoning in the last few years, the border agents that have died by suicide in rising numbers, the historic rapes, sexual assaults, kidnapping, and plundering of our southern neighbors, Mexicans, in pursuit of the southern border, the 800,000 children that have been lost here in this country. The list goes on. And for him to hold up a fruit or a vegetable and a beer is so demeaning to who I am as an American and to those families who have lost their loved ones, to all 50 states that have been impacted by fentanyl and the cartels being ramrod by China. The list goes on. So for me, all this shows is how unserious Congress is, how deeply embarrassing our elected officials on the left have been. And thank God for the new administration and the guys in charge that are actually getting something done and prioritize Americans' safety over their props.
Yeah, so Schumer gets to keep his beer and guac. One could say Trump saved the Super Bowl with that one and got 10,000 troops to the northern border of Mexico in the process. And thankfully, Rebecca, you have AOC who gets to keep her coffee. Let's remind everyone, to punish Colombia, Trump is about to make every American pay even more for coffee. She goes on. None of it happened. AOC, the coffee is safe.
Well, of course, I mean, to Emily's point, they're totally out of touch. Americans care about having their neighborhoods safe. Americans care about not having fentanyl flooding across the southern border. And by the way, the northern border. I hear a lot of people say, well, look, Canada doesn't have much of a fentanyl problem. It has doubled fentanyl across the Canadian border just in the last year. So you got to close the northern border, the southern border. And then the other thing, none of this even happened. The tariffs didn't happen. It was a credible threat. But all of this, concern about the price of coffee, the price of beer and avocado, it didn't even happen. President Trump was successful in making sure that these countries did their part to stem the flow of this illicit material.
Joey, when this was announced just before Christmas that President Trump had this in his design, I said, guys, instead of freaking out, because that's what the media did, this is the opening salvo to a heavy-handed negotiation. And indeed, that's how this has played out. We'll see what happens a month from now when the tariffs are set to go into place. But so far, this is looking more like a negotiation and less like tariffs being an end in of themselves.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody told us that's the way it would go. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Almost like we watched it happen, 8 years ago. I don't know. I guess it's hard to keep momentum if you're a Democrat right now. I get it. The people I know that are worried about the price of gas, they don't make guacamole and they don't drink Corona. They're going to work every day and they're coming home and they're hoping they can put food on the table. Here's my position on this, and it's been here the whole time. What comes from Canada? Cars come from Canada and Mexico. You can't go buy a car if money costs so much you can't finance it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it sucks you might not be able to go buy a new car, but could you afford one anyway if the interest rates 8% or whatever it is for vehicle loans right now. There's a big problem. The big problem is how much our energy costs. And energy is a part of that equation with Canada. But the difference is our previous president shut down our energy production, so shut down liquid natural gas terminals to even get it somewhere so we could sell it and make some money. Our previous president put the price of energy so high under this idea that he could appease some zealots within our country and Europe on things like climate change. No matter how real it is, I'm going to hurt you right now on the heels of this high inflation for something that may help in the next 80 years. This president may be doing things that raise prices of some things for a small amount of time so that our kids stay alive, so they don't die from a drug overdose or get raped and murdered on the side of the road from somebody that should never be here to begin with. If I've got to pay extra either way, I will certainly do it so that my kids are safer. And I think that's what resonates with Americans.
It was such a false flag, though, because we hadn't seen the action that those other countries would take. And, you know, when you look at Chuck Schumer standing there or any of the Democrats who are waging this resistance, they're willing to fight the resistance harder than the other countries are who are facing 10 to 25% tariffs. I mean, what does that tell you? They understand what they're up against. I don't think the Democrats have gamed this out. And Emily, you had a good point. It does feel like around the corner that the midterms are coming. Are they attracting any voters at this point? I mean, outside of the people who are already in their camp, I don't know. And why are Democrats so obsessed with what we drink? Oh. I mean, seriously, from coffee to beer, whatever, I'm with you. Stop focusing on how to manipulate us and figure out how to be a help. Work with the other side right now.
California grows avocados, so.
Totally.
Yeah, that's right.
Does.
They'll be happy about it.
Domestic production. That's
and you were right, there were fruit.
Who would have thought?